So President Trump in his second term has always been unpopular relative to other presidents in their honeymoon phase. So, of course, the honeymoon phase is like right when you get in there. Basically, the American people seem to give presidents a grace period to, like, make some decisions, implement some policies, try to get the train on the tracks, etc. So to put that in perspective for you, Joe Biden in his honeymoon phase was plus 17 points over water with his favorability rating. Donald Trump, the high number I saw was plus 6. But I also saw a bunch that had him just dead even, or like plus 1. So underperforming Joe Biden during his honeymoon phase by double digits, right? So he's always been like that because he has colossally high unfavorables. He always had. He always has. In his first term, it was even worse in his first term, I think. So he also had the other day, and I was shocked by this myself, even though his economic numbers were massively underwater.
Everyone's jumping on this new Trump approval poll like it's gospel. Kyle's out here acting like a single dip in the numbers means the entire MAGA movement is in hospice care. But let's slow down. Because when you actually look past the headlines, and I don't know, use logic, a lot of what he says just doesn't hold up. Is Trump's rating down? Sure. Is it some irreversible collapse of the right? Not even close? And blaming it all on tariffs while pretending Biden didn't throw gasoline on the inflation fire? That's just intellectual laziness. Let's unpack the spin.
There was one poll that had him at a 50% approval rating. And I was kind of shocked by that because I'm looking at it like, that doesn't make sense. Because when you get to the specific things he's doing, it's like underwater, 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 and then had his highest approval maybe ever in that one poll. Okay. Well, guess what? I was right in thinking that's sort of an outlier. And all of the horrific decisions and Elon Musk's bullshit, it's starting to catch up to him. So now we have this. Donald Trump's approval rating falls to new low for his second term. Here we go. Ready? President Donald Trump's net approval rating has fallen to a new low for his second term of minus 14 points, according to a poll. That's got to be a record for any president this early on in their term. Minus 14, he's been in there for what, 2-3 months? The AP NORC survey conducted between March 20th and 24th shows that 56% of respondents disapproved of Trump's job as president, while 42% approved. Guys, again, we're talking 2-3 months here. He's already down at 42. The survey was conducted on 1,229 adults and had a margin of error of plus or minus 4 percentage points. Trump's approval rating is a key indicator of his political strength as he navigates his second presidential term and prepares for future policy battles. A shift in his numbers could influence support for Republican lawmakers, affect his ability to push through his agenda, and shape the political landscape heading into the midterm election cycle. So here's the thing, man. Talking about a potential shift in Republican voters now, they're all completely cucked to Trump and MAGA. That's a fact. But at the same time, they just got some cold water in the face. They just got a strong rebuke just last night. So you had the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, and Elon Musk dumped over like $20 million into that race. It was a fucking record how much he spent to try to buy the Wisconsin Supreme Court seat. And it failed. It failed. The Democrat raised way less money, and still ended up winning. And this was, Elon was holding events there and giving away $1 million check and telling other people, we'll give you $100 if you vote or bring somebody else to vote. And he went all in. Elon was on TV saying, if we lose this race, it's the fall of Western civilization. So they really had all their eggs in that basket. And what they were looking for was validation of what Trump has been doing and what Doge and Elon have been doing. And the voters not only smacked them down, they smacked them down astronomically. We're talking about, it was supposed to be a close race. It was called almost instantly, and it's a double-digit victory for the Democrat. Double-digit victory. So with that, here's the reality. All these Republicans, they are political creatures, and they care first and foremost about saving their ass. To this point, that's why they've sucked Trump's nuts from the back, is because they feel like, hey, this guy always seems to weather the storm, always seems to come out on top, so we got to hitch our wagon to him. We have no choice, right? But right now is the first moment where they got to look around and go, oh, this is not a good sign for the midterms. This is not a good sign for Trump and Elon and their agenda. And I don't know about this, dog. Maybe the best way for me to hold on to my seat is to try to differentiate myself from what they're doing, right? And the Republicans, the elected Republicans, aren't as stupid as Trump and Elon, where They knew, hey man, if we're going to cut Social Security, we're not going to say we're cutting it. We're going to say we're reforming it, and we'll do like a 3% cut, and we'll lie and pretend like we didn't do it, and we'll do a whole propaganda effort to try to get people there. Trump and Elon are just going in like, hey, slash 50% of the Social Security offices, cut off the phone line, which is used for like 40% of the claims, start cutting off people's checks illegally by claiming it's waste, fraud, and abuse when it's not. And this is leading to a revolt on the ground. It's leading to a revolt. And so this is the first instance where they're going to pause for a second and go, maybe being a total cuckboy to this bloated freak is not a good idea. So they continue here. The findings from the AP NORC poll also reveal that 58% of respondents disapproved of Trump's handling of the economy, while 40% approved. So he's never been... Guys, I need you to understand. This is an anomaly in the sense that Republicans... I don't know why this is. It's kind of a shame. But Republicans generally always have a higher approval rating on the economy than Democrats. Because I think the stereotype of the Republican in people's minds is they're like a serious old man who wants to save you your money, right? Give you tax cuts. They're fiscal conservatives, so they watch very closely. And this is the stereotype. None of that is true, but this is what people think, right? So Republicans always have better numbers on the economy than Democrats, like regardless of the facts. For a Republican president to be 18 points underwater on the economy is unheard of. Now, why? Why is this happening? Guys, the answer is right in front of you. It's very simple. I'm talking to you today. This is right before Trump announces Liberation Day for the economy. What's Liberation Day? He's going to announce universal across-the-board tariffs. Okay, I'm going to do a segment on this in a little bit, but that is literally the end of the American economy. Like, things will never be the same again. If you actually implement this, you're going to see massive inflation for consumer goods. The one thing in this country that was holding it together with duct tape and glue was the low price of consumer goods, because there's been massive inflation for housing, for education, for all the things that like are the staples that you need, right? There's been massive inflation on that stuff, and there's been steady prices for consumer goods. Well, now, if you hit the American people with a double whammy of inflation, where housing and healthcare and education are through the roof, and now also consumer goods are through the roof, as wages are largely stagnant, what do you think's going to happen? People are not going to be able to afford anything. They're going to be hit in the head with a fucking sledgehammer called Trump's tariffs. And so for him to be 18 points underwater, that is the American people going, holy shit, no, we don't want this. We don't want to do this. We can't deal with a 25% tax on everything we fucking buy at the store. Right? So that's a big deal. Meanwhile, 60% disapproved of Trump's handling of trade negotiations, while just 38% approved. That's where, he's like berating people like Justin Trudeau, threatening the EU with tariffs. Like, this is people looking at that, well, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? The results were divided along party lines, with Republicans approving overwhelmingly of Trump's handling of both issues and Democrats disapproving strongly. The finding mirrors other polls in recent weeks, which have shown Trump's approval ratings on the economy and tariffs plummeting. A poll by YouGov and Yahoo.
Let's pause here. Kyle keeps citing one AP NORC poll as if it's the political equivalent of Moses coming down with the tablets. But this is the same guy who pretends polling was accurate in 2016. And somehow now, we're supposed to believe this is the reliable crystal ball for Trump's political future? Make it make sense. And let's talk about Elon Musk buying a Supreme Court seat. That's not analysis, that's projection. Democrats drop millions into races every cycle. But when Musk does it, suddenly it's the fall of Western civilization? The double standard is laughable. And yes, Trump's economic policy deserves scrutiny, especially on tariffs. But to claim it'll cause another Great Depression while ignoring the damage of Biden's bloated spending and lockdown-era inflation is just dishonest.
Conducted between March 20th and 24th among 1,677 adults revealed that Trump's approval rating on the economy was 39%, while 51% disapproved. That's only going to go one direction, y'all. That's only going to go one direction, because it sounds like he's following through on these tariffs, which will mean just the stock market is going to absolutely implode. There will be massive job loss, as there's been in the public sector and now the private sector too, and prices are going to skyrocket. The poll also showed that a majority of Americans believe that the U.S. was already in a recession or headed towards one. On Monday, Goldman Sachs raised its odds of a recession in 2025 to 35%, up from 20% previously. That's a conservative number, y'all. That is the company's highest recession probability since the regional banking crisis 2 years ago. Meanwhile, JP Morgan now says the chances of a recession this year stand at 40%, with both business sentiment and consumer confidence having slumped in recent weeks. Consumer confidence has, has plummeted. Consumers are like, this is really uncertain, right? Like what's happening right now is really, really uncertain. Fears of recession stem from Trump's tariffs on countries including Canada, Mexico, and China, which Goldman Sachs previously estimated could push up inflation by 1% while squeezing U.S. companies' profits. Trump has sought to blame inflation on his predecessor, Joe Biden, at an event at the White House in March. He said the U.S. economy and its economy went to hell under Biden. However, a Morning Consult poll published on March 20th suggests that the message no longer resonates with voters. Oh, you don't say. The findings revealed that 46% of respondents said Trump was to blame for the current economic conditions, while 41% said the same about Biden. So he's now eclipsed Biden, where all these economic problems and all the inflation is going to be directly blamed on him. This is compared to a February poll when 44% of respondents said that the current economic conditions were resulted from Biden's policies, while only 39% blamed Trump. Newsweek's average of the 10 most recent polls show that Trump's approval rating stands at 47%, while 49% disapprove, giving him a net score of minus 2 points. Both his approval and disapproval ratings have remained relatively stable in recent weeks. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you see here, right? See how the disapprove is ticked up and the approve ticked down? You just wait, bro. If he follows through with these tariffs, man, it's going to get ugly. I'm talking 2008 Great Recession ugly. I'm talking COVID downturn ugly. If he is as rigid and stubborn and ideological as he appears, we could be talking about these tariffs like we talk about the Smoot-Hawley Act, which helped lead to the Great Depression. That's where we are right now. So it's not looking good for the big guy, and it's only going to get worse. One more thing I wanted to show you on this. One more thing. Ready? Is Donald Trump doing better than you expected as president, worse, or about what you expected? A plurality of voters, 42%, a plurality of voters say he's doing worse. He's doing worse. And that number has ticked up from 35% in February. So in other words, the most common reaction is the exact same reaction I had and many of you had, where I was like, look, first term Trump was bad. He was bad. Tax cuts for the rich, deregulation, more bombings, right? It was bad. It was bad. But this second term is so much worse, so far above and beyond what anybody could have imagined in their wildest nightmares. And that appears to be the response, the plurality response of the American people. So you're not crazy. You're not alone. Everybody else is seeing this shit too. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
So here's the bottom line. Trump's approval rating is down. Okay, that's news. But Kyle's analysis, it's just activism in a snarky voice. Overhyping polls, pretending Republicans are mindless cultists, and acting like Elon is personally ending democracy. It's tired, it's lazy, and it insults the intelligence of anyone paying attention. If Trump pushes stupid tariffs, call it out. If voters reject him over real policy, fine. But stop pretending like it's 1932 every time a Democrat wins a local race. That's not journalism. That's narrative engineering. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you seeing this the way Kyle is? Or do you think the left's victory dance is a little premature? And don't forget to subscribe for more.